old mindset. I quit all the time. Anytime I would try to do something, anything, if it was a workout program, if it was a craft, if it was uh, a homework assignment, I mean, really anything, I was a big quitter. And for a really long time, I thought that I would never really be able to move my body in the way that I've been moving, that I can today. And I had to really work through understanding how my brain works and trying to hack it in order to like push through and get to where I'm at today. I used to sit around depressed and not really doing anything but like watching TV. And I showcase how much I like to try to dabble in doing things now, even in this like COVID stuck in the house type of environment that we're in. There are a few things that helped with getting me to this point. For a really long time, I felt very influenced by the people that were around me, family, relationships, friendships. I felt as though we all sort of viewed life in the same way. And for me, I played the role of the helper. And so I didn't really feel as though I had a driving force to be a leader. It was more along the lines of me being a follower and a helper. And so I had to find new people. It was hard because I think at first when I wanted to start to figure out how to change, I started to get really frustrated thinking that I didn't have anybody to share these new interests with. But again, I found new people. That's the beauty of the internet, is you have the power to expand your circle if you choose to, but you have to open up and use the people and give them the opportunity to get to know you. When I first started, I never really shared anything via video. I was too self-conscious. I didn't like the way that my voice sounded. I didn't like the way that I looked. I didn't like anything, but I learned that I had to keep showing up and doing it anyway, and just like pulling off the band-aid and posting and hoping for positive reinforcement. And it's worked. I've built a base of followers that have been extremely supportive, and some have joined me on this journey. And that's when I realized that if I could really figure out what I wanted, then I could find the people that would want the same thing and want to go on the journey with me. But it started with me figuring out what I wanted, as opposed to me following and just trying to be helpful with other people. I hope that is sort of making sense. To go a little bit deeper, I was in a really controlling relationship for 8+ years. And in that dynamic, I never felt as though I could do the things that I wanted to do. The reactions and repercussions of me trying to pursue things that I loved became too much for me to handle. And so I really suppressed that side of myself and just found ways to be okay with the reality at that time. And that looked as, me watching a lot of TV, smoking a lot of weed, laying around, living my life based off of another person, meaning that if that person was asleep on the couch, then I was sitting on the couch watching TV, trying to keep myself busy, sometimes trying to wake her up and praying that it wasn't going to turn into a huge battle, as opposed to being like, hey, go take a nap. I'm going to go do this, and living a free life. The control there, whether real or imagined, suppressed me. And I needed to figure out what I wanted so I could find people that would support that. It's interesting too because I always saw myself as a mindful person, even before I really knew what that meant. Like, that mindful word is still sort of new-ish in what I would call pop culture. I don't know, the internet lingo. But, you know, when I think about like when I was a kid and the things that I wanted to do, you know, I always wanted to be the person that had a lot of hobbies, that would pick up a book and go outside and sit under a tree and read, or, you know, make a lot of crafts and just be a homebody, but like doing things as opposed to what I was living, which was being a homebody and kind of like sitting there as a mannequin or sitting there like a puppet. Yeah, it's really interesting to reflect on. You know, now I truly understand that that I can take action towards the things that I want. And in fact, I'm even like, this is the first time ever, like I'm building like this craft space that will serve the purpose that like I've been working towards. It's pretty interesting. So like that's how my life is transformed. But I want to tie it all in together because why does it matter? You know, when I first was starting this process, like I didn't necessarily understand why it mattered because I hadn't gone through the actions yet. And so I think it's really important for me to share this information because, again, as I said in the beginning, like it's really easy when you think about transformations to think about the physical transformation, to see that before and that after. You know, and what's a lot harder to see is what actually happens in the brain and in the mental transformation that someone goes through to really change their lives. And that's why I keep sharing, because I want to try to showcase how that mental transformation has changed for me. You know, the mental transformation is really what matters the most anyway, because anyone, if they put their mind to it, can be disciplined to follow a short-term plan and lose weight if that's what they want to do. Simply put. That's why you see people that do short-term cleanses or do short programs or do something really, really, really intense for a short period of time so they can drop a lot of weight. And if your goal is truly just to be skinny, that'll work. I mean, you can find the motivation. Motivation's not going to carry you past that. You really got to dig deep to make true change. There's a difference between changing something about yourself and just following a short-term plan from start to finish and hoping, you know, to see like really dramatic results. You know, it really takes a special person to find a plan that you can do consistently and to build that resiliency in yourself. You know, it takes a special person to make a priority in doing the work on finding the mental and emotional issues that are inside your subconscious, inside your brain, inside your soul, and pull them to the surface so you can work on healing. And that's what I've been really focused on. As a beautiful side effect is as I've started to get out of my own way and actually just do the work and really focus on why do I feel these roadblocks? How do I overcome these roadblocks? Let's understand why those roadblocks are there in the first place. I see physical results. You know, life is a roller coaster. So when I'm on the downslope, unfortunately, I turn to the things that comfort me, which is food. and not moving my body. And so I'll see my body change, and it's a give and take. I might feel real lean some days, but then other days, like other weeks, like now, I feel sort of like I have a food baby and I'm pregnant and like whatever. But I also know that that's my body processing all of that shit that I've eaten and trying to find a way to get it out. And when you're eating things that are filled with more chemicals and more sugar, it takes a lot longer. And sometimes it gets stuck in your system, as opposed to if you're eating clean and high fiber foods and it just like keeps pushing things through. The biggest change, the absolute biggest change that I have had in my life has been that I stopped beating myself up for not being perfect. That's really what it came down to. For a long time, if it wasn't perfect, I either wouldn't start, or I wouldn't share, or I wouldn't follow through, or I quit. And now I realize that it's okay to fail, because an effort missed does not negate an effort completed. So the more you find consistency, and the more you celebrate things, and the more you find those positive reinforcements inside of your process, whether it being, sharing, your journey on social media and getting positive feedback from internet friends, or joining a community and, sharing with a small group of people and getting that conversation going. I think what I see here is that many of us, me specifically, get so stuck in our depression and our anxiety that we are paralyzed into inaction, and there's a lot of shame and guilt that is associated with that. On the other side, if you can figure out how to work through it and keep taking action and keep pushing forward, you will find and build the life that you want. The key is figuring out actually what you want, letting yourself want. My dad was in the military when I was little. I was like 3 years old. And there was this guy in the military that he told me the story all the time, that would tell him, it was like a sergeant or something, I don't know. And they would constantly tell the other guys, how does it feel to want? And so like I grew up with my dad. Anytime I'd be like, I want this or I want that, I would get that response from my dad, like, how does it feel to want? And you know what? It feels really good to want. What feels really shitty is being told you're not allowed to want, or that you shouldn't want. There's probably a lot of people that disagree with me. I feel like this is like so like anti-Buddhist, which I'm not. All for the Buddhists. I probably need to like bring in more of the philosophy into my own life. But I'm at this point in my life where I'm trying to figure out, what the fuck do I actually want? Because if I can figure out what I want, then I know that I can achieve it. My problem being that I've lived under control for a really long time, where I wasn't allowed to want, and I felt as though I needed to support other people's wants. So now, at 34 years old, I'm trying to figure out, what do I want? I have the house. I have a puppy. We're working on a baby, hopefully in the next year. But what do I want? What do I really, really want? And that's the biggest transformation of all. To go from not feeling like I was allowed to want anything, to really figuring out, what is it that I want, and then going after it. That's a transformation that you can't see. That's a transformation that I can only try to explain to you and encourage you and help you to realize that you can do the same thing, because your brain will listen to what you tell it. So if you tell it, I want this, let's work on this because this is good for me, it will listen. It will find ways to bring that to reality. But if you tell your brain, ugh, I'm not going to do that, or that's not for me, it'll never be for you. It all starts with what you're telling yourself. I don't know. Food for thought. Thanks for listening.